you have to actually change who you are. You have to actually improve who you are. You have to become an attractive person. Guys always want to know, how do I get attraction from girls? You get attraction by being attractive.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, like the key part of being attractive is, like you said, just establishing that reference group of people all around you who are good with women, and you know, kind of by osmosis become more like them.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a catch-22 though, because I know it's tough for a guy who's not currently good with women, because, you know, all his friends probably aren't good with women, and that brings him down more. But then the guys who are good with women don't want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
What would you say to a guy in that situation? Like, how can he make some friends who are going to bring him up and who are going to like really help his belief system?
It's actually not only a really common question, a really good question, but it's something that I personally went through. You know, I was like, my friends are computer programmers, my friends are intellectual guys, doctors, geeks, every category of guys that wasn't good with women. So how do I start hanging out with the guys that are good with women? So there's two things that I found. The first is that there are guys in this community, and they're few and far between, but there are guys in this industry that are good, right? Start hanging out with those guys. You will automatically have a bond. You have this bond of, we're both in this to kind of do the same thing. All right, so start hanging out with those guys. Now, the key to that, of course, is that if that kind of guy
Actually, real quick, where could they find that? Where could they find those guys?
Like layers, right?
Yeah.
And I know it sounds super geeky, right? But for the guys not familiar, right? The layers are these like secret underground organizations, right? In every major city, it's like fight clubs, right? And these guys exist so that they're like support groups, really, where every like guys, you know, a lot of naturals, or a lot of like guys going out, they kind of pull each other down, right? Like they think, like they'll be talking to a girl and his friend will come up and he'll be like, don't talk to him, he's a douchebag. Thinking that like, if I put my friend down, she'll think I look cooler, right? Or they'll tell their friend, then their friend will go up and, you know, the girl will say, oh, I'm not interested. And their friend, he'll come back and his friends will laugh at him. His friends will be like, dude, I told you shouldn't have gone up, you're stupid, whatever, right? So the difference is that these support groups are there, and they're there for positivity, right? So you find these guys that are also doing the same thing you're doing, right? They're going through the same, you know, trials and tribulations you're going through. You find those guys and you hang out with those guys. Those guys are, like I said, there's few and far between, but those guys are good and they know where you came from. Okay, now of course, if you want those guys to take you under their wing, then you need to be a guy who's applying yourself. Okay, he doesn't want to train you, he doesn't want to like take you out and basically mentor you unless you're a guy, you're a cool guy, right? You bring some value to the table. Okay, and that leads us to the second thing, which is if you want to go with naturals, figure out what naturals value. Okay, all of us, as much as we don't like to think of it, all of us are inherently selfish. All of us are looking for, what value do people bring me? That's just instinctive. That's just how our minds work. So if you can figure out what people value, and especially what the people that you're looking to hang out with, what they value, and you can bring them value, then you guys can connect, right? A lot of pickup revolves around this concept of value, and it sounds super Machiavellian, but when you really get down to it, that's exactly how it is. Now I want you guys to think of how you met your best friend. Did you meet him because you were begging him for something, and that you had nothing to offer him at all, and that you were just taking? You're just like, give me something, give me money, I want this, I want to know what you have. Is that how your friendship started? I'll guarantee you that's not how your friendship started. It started because you had something to give and he had something to give. It was a mutually beneficial relationship. Now that might have been because you were good at Street Fighter and he was good at World of Warcraft, right? And that might have been something super geeky, but the end thing is that you guys both had that give and take, okay? So it's the exact same thing as that guy who's good with women. You want to hang out with that guy, guess what? It's got to be a give and take. It's got to be something where you have something to offer and he has something to offer. And that doesn't have to be women or money or anything else like that. That could be connections. Maybe he's a guy who's good with women, but he doesn't have a job. And you are in a position to hire people, or in a position to influence, or you're well connected. Maybe that's you have a connection to clubs and he doesn't. Maybe that's maybe you're good at math, right? Which I know a lot of us are good at math. Maybe you're good at math and he's failing out of his math class in college. Okay, guess what? You have some value. Figure out what value you have and then use that to create a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely key. It's probably, the differentiator between people who are successful in life and who aren't successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how would you say, how can a guy kind of convey value when he's talking to a girl in a bar? Because I know a lot of the guys, some guys have posted on our forums that, when you're talking to a girl in the bar, especially if you're not used to doing this, that, it can be very difficult, and it can be difficult to to separate yourself from the crowd. So how can a guy do that and make himself stand out and be, the one guy she wants to go home with that night?
I think it's a combination of elements. There's you can't do that. You can't be the one-trick pony, because the one-trick pony doesn't work. Because eventually she's going to see through that whipped cream, right? She's going to smell through it. She's going to realize there's something unsavory under this whipped cream. You got to be the guy who's got the cake under the whipped cream, right? You got to be the guy who is attractive. So instead of focusing on like this secret tactic that's going to get me this result, right? Or this tip that a friend gave me that's going to get this girl, focus on things like humor. Humor will take you farther than any line in the world, right? Focus on things like dominance, right? Dominance will take you further than any line in the world. Focus on things like being comfortable with your sexuality. Focus on things like being able to connect with people, being able to relate to people, being able to gain rapport with people. And not in a Machiavellian, like, I'm going to do this tactic to gain rapport with you. In a very genuine, like, I'm getting to know people. Like, develop core social skills. Be able to lead conversation, be able to lead people. Like, all of these things people don't want to do, just like in the gym, right? People don't want to do what's necessary in the gym. They want to take the magic pill, they want to do the magic formula, they want to do the magic exercise, the ab crunch all day long. I don't want to change what I eat. I just want to do the ab crunch and I'll lose all 500 pounds, right? It doesn't work like that. Okay, you got to go and focus on those fundamentals and knock that stuff out. And before you do that, or until you do that, nothing above that, none of those tactics and techniques are worth anything.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that's like one of the things you're known for, like really like drilling down like the fundamentals and making sure guys' fundamentals are tight when you teach them. What are some like kind of the nonverbal mistakes that you see guys making? Like, what are some like real basic like body language or like tonality things that you see in guys where if they corrected them would really help them out?
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, right? So nonverbal communication, they've said, is the majority of communication, right? What you say means a whole lot less than how you say it, right? And we know this because when people lie to us and they're very bad liars, it's very clear that they're lying, right? And people instinctively trust body language because it's so hard to fake, right? Try changing your body language. Try changing the way you walk. Try changing the way you stand, and try to see how long you can do that. You'll do it for about 2 seconds, and then you'll instantly revert back to what you were doing before, okay? So some quick tips, actual tactical things you guys can do to start working on body language, okay? The first thing is take up more space, to an extent, right? It's not necessarily take up space as much as it is don't be afraid to take up space. So one thing we all see in common is guys that are afraid to take up space. So when they're sitting, they don't sit comfortably. They sit afraid to take up space, right? They stand feet together, afraid to take up space, right? When they walk with the shoulders hunched over. We've all seen that tall guy, and he's afraid of being tall because he's been taller than everyone in his whole life. And he's afraid of being tall, so he hunches over, right? So those things are examples of being afraid to take up space. Those things communicate things about you that words can never describe. You can tell a girl all day long how confident you are. You can convey it through stories and all kinds of secret techniques. But guess what? She's going to trust your body language 100 times more than she'll trust anything that you say verbally. Okay, so taking up space is a big thing. Okay, dominance is a big thing. When I say dominance, right, what I mean is that every time you do something, do it as if there's no possibility of failure. So if you're going to go shake her hand, or you're even going to go approach, you're going to maybe approach and maybe tap her on the shoulder as you approach. Don't do it and second guess yourself. Don't do it and hesitate. Don't do it and say, hey, I wanted to talk. Just be 100%, right? Commit 100%. It's like cliff jumping. You half-ass the cliff jump, you're not going to make it across. Okay? Even if you get it wrong, even if you make a mistake, make that mistake with 100% conviction. Like I said, those types of things say more about you than any of the words that you say. You fix those things, and that's when things start to click.